In today's episode, we are going all in on beef steak and we are making the best of the best. We are making filet mignon, but we are going to use the middle section of the tenderloin, the Chateaubriand, whereas traditionally you would use the tail, but they just become very small. You know?
Yeah, and we always cook big.
That's true, that we do. So we are going to cut this into steaks, but we have two ways we can go here. We can either salt them and put them in vacuum bags and then in the sous vide and eat in 1.5 hours, or we can go the long way and dry brine them in the fridge over 24 to 48 hours, which will yield a better crust on the steaks.
Well, I believe such a pricey and rare cut of beef, it deserves full attention.
I agree, so we're going to give it all of our attention here. So I say, what do you say? We have a nice piece here, Black Angus, middle section, 5 steaks. We want them relatively thick, huh? Let's mark it up here. 2, 3. What do you say?
Perfect.
Doesn't that look like what we need?
Yes.
It does. So, this is, I think I could cut this with a spoon. Look at this.
My.
Look at the center cut here.
Imagine the carpaccio this can also make.
But that's what I'm going to do with the tail end because we have all of it.
That's a good idea, yeah.
Because this actually came out of a whole strip loin that we broke down. There's a link down below how to do that. And then you actually get the tenderloin a little bit cheaper than you else would. So that's a little trick there.
Of course, you become the butcher, you get a better price.
That's exactly true.
The problem is we have to wait now 1 to 2 days before we eat it.
Well, it's worth it because we also, and what I didn't mention before, we are going to serve this with a delicious Sauce Bordelaise also.
Ooh, is that wine from Bordeaux?
Yep, it is.
La la.
And there we are going to go and make a red wine reduction. It actually sounds fancy, but it's pretty simple and it makes a damn delicious sauce. So these are all ready. All we need to do now is get them seasoned up. And for the seasoning, we are going real simple. Fleur de sel, and you give it a good coating. And basically, you cannot over-season these. And here is a little trick. Make sure to season your board. And I'll show you why. Sounds stupid, but it's not. You will give them a good coating, because what will happen now is that when they're in the fridge, the salt will draw out the moisture, and then it will go back into the meat via a process called osmosis. And then you get the salt all the way through, even though it's very thick cut steaks. And that will yield, then it will dry out a little bit on the outside, and we're going to get a super delicious crust. It's going to be so good.
I'm so much forward to it.
And now we take what we have on the board and we roll our steaks. So we get some seasoning on all sides. Nice. We place them here, and it's important that you put them on wire racks so they have air all around so that they get good airflow while they're in the fridge. And that's it. Here they are, the beauties. So what we're going to do now, we're going to put them in the fridge, and then we will see you in 2 days' time. We've been waiting 2 days, and they have been very long, I have to say, but look at these, how beautiful they are. Look at the color on these after the salt osmosis. They have dried out on the surface. They look almost glossy, but they're actually kind of dry, so that's really nice. I'm going to take 2 of these today to cook for you, because the other ones I will have to cook differently from my camera wife afterwards, because I'm going to use some butter and she's not crazy about butter, so hey, but we have to do it the right way. I'm going to give them a little bit of avocado oil, give it around, not too much, just a little bit of a binder, because we're going to give them a little bit of pepper. So on a plate with that. Oh, they feel, and they are really soft. And then the outside is dry. There's going to be a magnificent crust on these. So that's going to be good. The salt, as you know, we already took care of. So what we're going to do here on the sides, we're going to give them a little bit of pepper. Don't overdo it. We're not making pepper steaks here, but you want to have some pepper on the surface. And they are thick steaks, so the crust can take a little bit of spice. Let me flip that around. And now we're just going to let that sit a little bit while we get started over at the stove. First things first, we have to get started on our sauce, because a red wine reduction takes a little bit of time. Normally you would start Sauce Bordelaise with some butter, but since we have our aromatized beef tallow from our beef stock episode, we're going to go in with a couple of spoons of that, or 1, I don't know, let's see, probably 1.5, because that adds amazing flavor to any sauce basically. And get that started. There we go. And then we're gonna go in with 2 shallots, very finely minced. Depending where you wanna go with this, you can chop them in bigger chunks if you're gonna strain the sauce at the end, which you would do if you were in a restaurant or whatever, but we actually prefer to have a little bit of texture in the sauce, so we're gonna leave the onions in there, and that's why we did a really fine mince. Now we wanna let this sweat out, and that will take maybe 8-10 minutes before they are ready. So when the onions, they start to take on a little bit of color, don't worry about this. This is also because of the orange color in the beef tallow. The smell you get out here is fantastic. That tallow, next time you do beef stock, check our link and how to make that. It's fantastic. So, red wine. Since we are doing Bordelaise sauce, a good Bordeaux. That's what we need here. So I would say, what shall we say, half a bottle?
Yeah, that should do it.
Let's see where we are here. A little bit more. And now we're going to crank this up, and we're going to let that start to reduce. And while that does its thing, I'm going to start up the big burner here for our steaks, so we can preheat our pan to around 220, 230. We will check it with a thermometer, and then we'll sear our steaks. Well, the Bordeaux smells fantastic, so that's going nice.
I can attest to that.
And our pan there is rocking 227, so that's perfect. Gonna go in with a little bit of avocado oil here. Not too much, but I want something in there. There we go. Let that warm up 2 seconds. And then we're gonna take our nice steaks presentation side first. And now we're gonna let them sit there, and we're not gonna touch them until they release from the pan on their own. We are only making crust here, we are not cooking them. And let's see how we're doing here. Ooh. Beautiful crust. Now I'm gonna do the sides a little bit, so we roll it around here. I wanna give them just a little bit of sear before we do the last side, and that's where the magic happens. There's a little bit of labor involved in this,
but it's a marvel.
Well, these steaks, they do deserve some attention.
Yeah,
and
tender,
here,
loving care.
And actually here, it doesn't really matter. With the grain, you can cut it across, against, with, diagonally. They are so damn tender, these fowls. You can do whatever you want. Oh, but the crust became so good. That's the beauty of cast iron pans. And now it's time to lower the heat a little bit, the other side down, and now we have to work a little bit fast. We put in a couple of knobs of butter, like this. We add 2 sprigs of rosemary and some cloves of garlic. And then once that melts up here, we are gonna create, oh, smell the rosemary.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my God.
And the garlic, but you don't crush the garlic, right?
No, I just cut them in half, or you can crush them or whatever you want to do. And then we baste them a little bit here. Then we go to the other side. Look at that. And that foamy butter there, that's going to give such richness to the crust on these steaks, you won't believe it. And you just keep doing this for a minute or two. And that hot butter will actually help to cook the steaks on the sides also while you're doing it. So this is adding richness. And that's about it for our steaks. They are now beautiful, crusty, but they are raw on the inside, and we're going to take care of that in the oven. But you see many people, they put them with the pan in the oven, but then they will continue cooking too much on one side. So it's much better if you put them like this on a rack and then in the oven. We're going to add our wireless thermometer, Armitor 1 here, to the center of the big boy, like that. And then we're going to stuff this in the middle rack in the oven at 120 degrees until we reach 52 internal. There we go. And now we can move on with our mashed potatoes. For our mash, we have peeled a kilo of potatoes and put it in cold water. And we're just gonna add, let's say, a tablespoon of rock salt here, so we get some salt from the beginning. We will salt them when we get to the end of it. But it's important for mash that you start them in cold water and let them come up to a boil, then it becomes more creamy and better. This will take a good half hour, and then we can work building up our sauce. And when it's reduced to almost like a syrupy consistency like this, and it smells really dark, it's beautiful. Then we're gonna go in with 400 milliliter of our homemade beef stock, fantastic product. And we are gonna let this reduce for some time until we get the consistency, but now we're gonna add 2 bay leaves, a tablespoon of dry thyme. No, but it's because it comes from Greek and it's thymari, and then...
Yes, in Greek it's with a th, but in English it's thyme. I don't know why, but okay. Whatever.
Anyways, a pinch of salt, we will taste it at the end, but a pinch now to combine the flavors, and a little bit of black pepper, not too much here. And we're gonna let that reduce till we have a good pan sauce consistency, and then we finish off our mash, and then we're ready to plate. And the sauce is looking good, it's getting thicker. I don't want this to be very thick actually, I just want it, to coat the backside of a spoon, and when you drag your finger, it doesn't run down. That's good. Out with the bay leaves, because they have done their job. And we kill the heat, and we let it stop bubbling. And then we're going to mount it with a knob of butter. That will make that silky surface you want on your sauce. You don't need a lot. It will thicken a little bit, but you don't want to stir it in. You just want to let it melt a little bit in the sauce like this. If you stir it in, you risk that it separates, and you don't want that to happen. Just let it melt slowly in there, and you're going to get a beautiful... You see how the silkiness starts around?
You have to give it to the French. That's an elaborate, nice sauce. And a general good recipe, right?
Yeah, it is. And as I mentioned before, you can of course strain this so you get it completely silky smooth, but I prefer to leave the onions in there. That is totally up to you. Just
your kitchen, your rules.
Exactly. So that is ready in a second here. There we go. And basically, I'm just going to let that sit here with a lid while we prepare the rest. Let's take a look at our potatoes, how they are doing here. They are almost there. They need a little bit more for mashed potatoes. That's perfect, because then we can get started a little bit on our, there we have. Gonna take a little bit of cream. You could use milk. I don't know how much we're taking for 200 milliliter, 250?
250, yeah.
Something like that. And then we're gonna take 2 knobs of butter.
Ah, you're gonna warm it up to add it after.
Yes, of course, because then when we mix it up, because in a minute or so I'm gonna strain the potatoes, bring them back and dry them out a bit over the heat, and then we start mashing, but I want this to be warm. I just drained the potatoes from water, and now I just want to let them dry off a little bit here and rough them up over the heat here.
I've never done that before in a mashed potatoes. You are
want
inventing more and more things, you know?
No. If you want them silky smooth, this is what you have to do. You rough them up a little bit, get rid of some of the moisture here.
What's wrong with the water that is full of starch to use it in the mashed potatoes?
I'm very happy with my cream and my butter. Butter makes everything better, so that's it.
Yeah,
this is nice. So we take that in the middle, and this is warm. So we are ready to start mashing some potatoes. You can use a potato ricer if you have one, but we are using this one. If you use a ricer, you get a finer mashed potatoes than you can achieve with this. But I don't mind a little bit of texture either in this, so that's fine. We can use that in another episode. In with our cream and butter. And we continue mashing this up until we have nice, smooth consistency on our mash here. There's a lot in the bottom still. They will be so good. And we go on with a spoon here. Oh, they're gonna be nice. I love mashed potatoes.
Yeah, it's also my favorite. I mean, I love potatoes, punctum, so.
True. Now I wanna see where we are, if we need more salt on these. Just a tad more salt.
And a little bit of pepper.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That's always nice, you know.
Yeah, I should have used white pepper, but okay.
No, I like it black. I want to see it. It's more aromatic, actually. So.
But of course, if you want this to be completely smooth, then you can push it through a strainer, and then you get this really like totally creamy consistency.
And you just put it in a mixer also?
Yeah. But I have to be honest, I like it like this when it has a little bit of, let's say, texture. And but again, your kitchen, your rules.
Your stomach, your rules.
Yeah. This is done, sauce is done, steaks are at 48, so 5-7 minutes, we are plating up. Well, would you take a look at that? Perfect medium rare. Let me show you here. I don't know if you can see that, but look at that. Medium rare, wall to wall. It's perfect and it's so beautiful. I want this with a little bit of our nice mashed potatoes. Has to be the perfect bite, you know. I want a little bit more sauce because anyway, the Bordelaise sauce is fantastic. So let's give this a try.
That's a bite to die for.
I rest my case. I've done it before, but this time I really rest my case. We did Marry Me Chicken some episodes ago. Supposedly that recipe is so good that people, they want to marry you. Somebody serves that for me, instant ring. I mean, this is so damn good. I mean, the Bordelaise sauce is fantastic with the beef stock. It's so beef forward. I mean, the tenderloin, because it's not very marbled, it doesn't have a ton of beef flavor, but the texture is so fantastic. And then together with the beef stock, it becomes like a match made in heaven. So definitely give this a shot. Cheers.